After going through this video, you will be able to explain loops, list down different types of loops, apply while loop in a PHP code, explain how break and continue keywords are used in a loop. Suppose a person is working as a packaging controller at a company. The job of this person is to give command to a robot to pack the product in cartons. There are 20 cartons and inside one carton only 4 products can be placed. Now, every time a robot places a product inside a carton, the robot will again come to the person and will wait for further instructions. That is, to again pick the product and place it inside a carton. This means that the controller has to give commands 20 into 4, that is 80 times manually, to the robot to place all the products in all the cartons. This is going to be a tiring process. Obviously not for the robot because it runs on batteries. So instead of entering the commands manually, the controller creates a program that allows the robots to place the products inside all the cartons without asking the controller every time. And once all the products are placed, the robot will await for the next instructions. In PHP, we have a similar concept of loops where we can run a block of code multiple times under certain conditions. The benefit of using loops is that we don't need to write the same code multiple times, just like we saw in the previous example. We will be looking at 4 types of loops in this video. These are while loop, do while loop, for loop, and for each loop. Let's begin the while loop and understand the logic behind its working. Look at this code with the while loop. Now, if you see, along with the while loop, we have this condition which is mostly a Boolean expression. If the condition is true, the block of code within the curly braces gets executed. Once this code block is executed, the condition is evaluated again. And if the condition is again true, the block of code is executed again. This continues like a loop until the condition evaluates to false, after which the code after the while block gets executed. So, a while loop executes a block of code if and as long as a specific condition is true. If we want to represent while loop using a flowchart, we can represent it like this. If the condition is true, the code block is executed infinitely until it becomes false. So to avoid this infinite loop, the code block within the loop must be written in such a way that it keeps changing the condition expression at every iteration, so that at one point, the loop will definitely end. Let us understand this better with the help of this example. This is a program to print the first 10 even numbers. After the while loop, we have a condition n is less than equal to 10, which means the loop will continue as long as the variable n is less than or equal to 10. Above this line, we have declared the value of n variable as 1, which means the condition is true and the code block will execute. Within the loop, we are printing the value of n by multiplying it by 2 to get the corresponding even numbers. And we are also incrementing n's value by 1. This is important as it ensures that after 10 iterations, the value of n will become 11, which would evaluate the condition to false, making the while loop to end. So, let's check the output. We can see the first 10 even numbers printed, and this is how we can use a while loop in PHP. Now, what if within the loop, some other condition evaluates to be true? What should we do in such a case? In this case, we break the loop using the break keyword. This will immediately take the control to the next line of the loop. Let's modify our code example which we used earlier. We will add an if condition that if n is equal to 5, then break the loop. So, this outer while condition would have run the loop 10 times, but now as we have used an if condition, the loop will break when n equals 5. And it will move out of the while loop and continue to execute the code blocks if present. Since in our example, we don't have any code outside the while loop, the code execution will stop after printing the first 5 even numbers. This means our program will now print only the first 5 even numbers like this. You might be wondering that we could have printed the first 5 even numbers by modifying the while condition and avoided the explicit use of the break keyword. Yes, definitely. But this example is just to explain how we can break a loop while using the break keyword. Similar to break, we have another keyword continue. To understand how it works, let us first replace the break keyword with continue in our code. Think for a moment and see what would be the output of this code. The code will print the first 5 even numbers, but will print the last even number, that is 10, infinitely. Let us understand why. When our code comes to this block of code, it skips the remaining code of the current iteration, that is, it skips n++. This is because after the condition we have used continue. So our code continues with the next iteration of the loop where it prints 5 into 2 equal to 10 again. So n remains unchanged. It again satisfies the if condition and the same thing continues. And it continues infinitely without ever coming out of the loop. So that was how the continue keyword works. I hope you have now understood how we can use break and continue in a loop. Now a quick question. Let's say we swap these lines with each other. What will be the output in this case? You may pause the video and think of the answer. Also, remember that the code is executed line by line. The output will be the numbers 4, 6, 8, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, and 22. Let us understand how. Swapping these lines means we are first incrementing the variable and then printing the number. So, here we have defined the value of variable n as 1. The moment it comes to this line, the value of n is incremented by 1. This means the value of n is now 2. Now coming to this line, it will print value 2 multiplied by 2, that is 4. So this is a loop. The value of n is again incremented by 1 and the value becomes 3, which will print the value as 6. Similarly, it will print 8 for the value 4. But the moment the value of n becomes 5, which evaluates to true, the remaining code of the current iteration is skipped. This means that this part of the code is ignored and 10 will not be printed. And the loop continues for the variable values 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11, printing 12, 14, 16, 18, 20 and 22 respectively. When the value of n becomes 11, the loop terminates because now the value of n is not less than equal to 10. That was all about while loop in PHP. In the next video, we will explore the remaining loops in PHP.